Hello everyone, this is Critic giving you a shoutcast between Nerchio and Unix here on Metalopolis. Unix spawning as the yellow Terran player, meanwhile Nerchio spawning as the light blue or cyan or sky blue Zerg player here at the 6 o'clock position. So this is going to be Terran versus Zerg. I'm still experimenting a little bit with my recording settings. I still need to get my additional hard drives in order to be able to set them up in RAID and be able to record and not have any lag. Right now I am loading StarCraft on the same hard drive that I'm trying to write to, and that I'm sure that will cause a little bit of the delays and lag. Hopefully I can clear that up for you guys, and then later on the games will be even better. So we have Nerchio as a Zerg player here at the 6 o'clock position. Nothing out of the ordinary, but I do have to talk about the spawning locations in this particular matchup. Nerchio, as soon as he scouts out with his drone, is not going to like what he sees. Unix really benefiting from the fact that his opponent's natural expansion is going to be so close to him. And by being so close to him, he can put on a lot of early pressure here. A lot of Zerg players now do know how to handle early Zerg or early Terran pressure with a lot of Zerglings. The benefit of having queens plus spawn larva plus creep tumors really gives the Zerg a really strong natural advantage during the early portion of the game, as they're able to get that movement speed upgrade and just be able to flank all over the place. You can now see an SCV battling out against a drone. The drone should not win in a 1v1 fight, but you can see that the drone is just more or less trying to pretend that he's trying to build a hatchery. You can see that Unix is trying to delay this here, but there is already a spawning pool and an extractor inside the base here. The SCV now finally coming up the ramp. We'll pretty much see that the spawning pool and the extractor is already down. Drones already being transferred over, and now the gig is up. We are going to get a barracks over here, most likely a supply depot here to finish off the wall in just a moment, but not before a drone able to hover inside and get a look inside the base. He sees that there is gas currently being mined. That's pretty much what he wants to see at this stage, as the drone was doing a little bit of claw and attack stutter here. And no, SCV is now trying to turn around, and oh look, the drone actually got a kill before it got taken down. So nicely done there, making sure to get at one SCV kill, so that drone scout was definitely worth it. We are going into a roach warren now, and a roach warren is a very interesting tactic, especially as Unix does not have a tech lab. So this is going to mean that it's going to be roaches versus Marines, and that is a matchup that all Zerg players always really like. There is going to be a hatchery down over here in just a moment, so it will delay the roach push in just a little bit, as well as we are getting our first queen out. So the first queen is significantly delayed at this point in time, as we are not even getting a hatchery over here. So it doesn't look like there will be any very early roach pressure unless the hatchery is not built. Zergling's now trying to move out. The drone still sitting over here, sitting at 19/34 food. Is it going to grow up to be a hatchery? It looks like it just can't decide as I continue to watch it. Back over here, we do have a queen now, and it looks like the queen wants to instead do a 5 roach push, or perhaps even a 6 roach push in just a moment. Is he going to be able to get that 6 roach push is the key question there. And now a lot of larva now in play, and yeah, 6 roaches now being trained up as a drone still hanging around, and down over here looking like he wants to grow up to be a hatchery, but he's never going to reach his dream unless he actually starts and tries. We are going to get a second extractor at some point, and taking the tier 2 would be a very smart move, as well as the roaches do get a significant movement speed upgrade. The queen, however, has not laid down a creep tumor, so those roaches are going to have a little bit of a difficult time, as those Zerglings and roaches are now one roach going to be left behind, as this 5 roach push now on, or 6 roach push on its way up that ramp. We are going to have some Hellions there, but this is not going to be very good at all. Unix is going to have a very difficult time trying to battle it out. The army size of Nerchio, 600 resources right here, and now in come the roaches. The roaches just battling it out and going to deal a lot of damage towards this one supply depot. It's going to get taken down with relative ease. Down it goes, and now the units are going to be able to just simply crawl in. Now going to go after perhaps some of those Hellions. The roaches now going straight into the SCV line, and now going after SCV, so damage is being dealt to the mineral line as more Hellions are trying to come out, but those roaches are still going after SCV time and time again, trying to make sure to hurt Unix's economy. And Nerchio doing a great job of just delaying Unix's economy, as a Marauder is finally out, but that Marauder This fight is just a little bit late now, as the roaches have been able to get a lot of damage across the board. Now going after, perhaps should have gone after the Marine that was down to 13 hit points. But still a very effective 6 roach rush. You can see the drone count and the worker count now 28 compared to 16. That is a very heavy hit. The Zerg player, however, is very behind in terms of his army size, 175 compared to 400. But with 28 drones and continuing to, it looks like he's going to try to continue to power drone. It's going to work out well for him. Drones are now mining over here at the natural expansion. One spine crawler looks like it will be up and running in just a moment, as well as more roaches are being added to this army. So Nerchio sitting back and now just buying his time to build up a larger army. Meanwhile, during that time, Unix, he took a very severe hit to his economy, but lucky for him, he does have double orbital commands, allowing him to train up about 7 to 8 SCVs every minute. Back over here, the spine crawler about to be done as well. Queen just hanging around, spawning larvae. And now Nerchio has a number of options that he can try to go for. Unix, on the other hand, looks like he wants to play it a little bit more safely. He is getting siege tanks with siege tech, but the key thing is that he doesn't have medevacs. Without that starport, Marine Marauder siege tank trying to push out is not going to be really that successful. Nerchio, it does look like no movement speed on those roaches just quite yet, as we are not at tier 2 at all. So there is a significant tech advantage by Unix. Unix already nearing completion on that siege tech. So without the roach movement speed upgrades, those roaches are going to have a very difficult time getting within combat range before they get blasted apart by those siege tanks. Roaches move very slowly, 2.25, meaning that a siege tank with proper sight, I think, can get off two shots onto a roach, and that means that it's already down to its last third of life. Hellions, Marauders, and siege tanks now making their way down as Unix tries to establish his natural expansion and try to get back into this game economically speaking. We still see a significant workers or a total food supply, 76 compared to 59. Worker supplies slightly in favor now for the Terran player, Unix. Meanwhile, Nerchio has a slight advantage in, 32, 5, slight advantage over here. Now coming back into this game, gonna go ahead and take a look. Zergling's now trying to swarm in and surround roaches, just barreling through this whole entire battle here, as the roach is now trying to take down one of those siege tanks, but there is still a siege tank on that high ground. And Nerchio, with a very, very poor exchange there, it looked like he was just suiciding his units, and that's very, very bad, especially as the Marines with Stim are going to be able to hunt down the rest of those, that Roach Zerg army. Zergling's now trying to get a decent surround here. Zerglings are picking apart a little bit time after time, and now this group of Marines and Marauders is now desperately in the red, as more Zerglings are still coming out and giving chase. Those Zerglings could have perhaps gotten some damage onto the Marine and the Marauders, but would have been sacrificed themselves. Those Marines and Marauders are very low on hit points. 2 hit points here, 14, all of them in the red, and that's always a dangerous place to be for your units. Now, Nerchio, we'll see what he tries to do to get back into this game. He does have a slight drone advantage right now, 48 compared to 37, but overall income, the Terran still has the advantage just slightly. You have to combine both both gas and minerals. You see 1600 versus 1600, but still a slight advantage as I'm looking at the numbers for Nerchio. And now you also see Nerchio trying to establish a high yield mineral expansion as well. There are overlords placed very nicely across the map to make sure that a drop would be revealed very, very easily. It doesn't look like any dropship play or medevac play is going to be coming in, and now we are going into the infestation pit. That infestation pit has been the boon or the bane of many Terran players as of late, and Terran players, Marine Marauders, just completely melting away to that fungal growth. If you're a Zerg player and you have not experimented with it just quite yet, I highly suggest you do so. It's although the unit size on a roach is, on an infestor is slightly larger than a Templar, because of the faster movement speed, especially on creep, most of the time infestors can get that damage. You just have to be very careful and not suicide your infestors into a line of siege tanks, as they are armored units and they get taken down very, very quickly, unlike High Templars, which are not armored units, 3 shots as opposed to 2. We are getting the pathogen gland now as the roaches and queens not trying to engage, and oh, that's a very bad engagement there, as the Marines and Marauders able to finish off those units, now siege tanks, are going to siege up onto that high ground and just slowly inch their way forward. So Unix making their way forward, just time and time, just moving very, very slowly, and now blasting away at the spine crawler over here. We are getting an infestor now, and the infestor looks like it will have enough for a fungal growth. Wow, 5 infestors will have enough for a fungal growth by the time it pushes out, but that is a lot of siege tanks that you have to try to deal with. The Marauders now blasting away towards this layer. The layer does have a decent amount of hit points, 2,000, but a siege tank in siege range dealing 50 damage per attack, even with the natural regeneration on the layer and that base 1 armor. It's going to be very, very difficult. Pathogen glands about to be completed. 6 infestors going to be popping out in just a moment, and will that be enough to turn the tide in this battle? This one layer now down to 331 hit points, as the Zerglings and the Roaches now trying to push forward once again. A lot of damage being dealt. The Roaches on creep, now moving very, very quickly and completely cleaning up this engagement here. The infestors are now just dropping infested Terrans instead after getting off 1 fungal growth, and now those siege tanks are going to be able to blast away, killing another siege tank there. Army-wise, 2,200 versus 1125. There is a group of infestors. Are we going to get a fungal growth off? There we go, 1 fungal growth. A group of Marines going to take a lot of damage. Another fungal growth should be coming in. There you go. Even though the Marines are split, a lot of splash damage is being taken as those Roaches are continuing to try to push in. This is not looking good, as more fungal growth still happening. The Broodlings now coming out, and will the Broodlings be able to clean up any of those siege tanks? That would be funny if they could, but no, not enough life on them. That is a lot of infestors, and those infestors are very expensive units. Back over here though, we are seeing Nerchio mining out a high yield mineral expansion, so that is going to help him out tremendously. Production wise, more Roaches, more hatcheries coming into play. Zerglings need to come out, and it looks as though Nerchio just going to try to see what he can do. Perhaps a creep tumor should be spawned here to keep these buildings alive. That infestation pit and that evolution chamber, as soon as it is off of creep, will start taking more and more damage, and that is always going to be a problem. You do not want to lose your high-tech, high-tier buildings, as there are a lot of infestors just sitting in the back there. Siege tank now starting to blast away. It looks like that infestation pit is just on a little bit of creep there, and then now I think it is finally off. Yeah, now finally off, and it is going to start to bleed. And all we needed would be a creep tumor right there. That queen could come down over here, but let's focus back onto the game. Siege tanks now playing a game of hopscotch forward, going to start taking down the evolution chamber and this infestation pit, which is already starting to slowly bleed out since it is off of that creep. You can see also these infestors just waiting, buying as much time as possible, and now also a medevac drop over here. The medevac drop did see that there are a lot of units over here, so this is a very curious position as the Marines and the Marauders are going to try to clean up this expansion. There is not enough queens. There are a couple of Roaches in order to fend off that attack there, and now the siege tanks, just getting destroyed. Those units getting destroyed there, and are we going to get another fungal growth off? The Zerglings now trying to push their way forward. Fungal growth should be happening right there. There you go, hitting many of those units. Another chain fungal growth could be more damage and more dead units there as the siege tank and the battle is happening over here. Another fungal growth needs to be happening. Siege tank completely surrounded by infested Terrans as a queen now trying to come in. Zergling's not going to swarm in, finish off this group of Marines, and now perhaps finish down that siege tank. That siege tank needs to unsiege as the infestors doing a great job trying to equalize this game, but Unix still has a very, very tight stranglehold on Nerchio at this stage. Nerchio sitting on 87 over 154, doesn't need any more overlords anytime soon, as the Marines and now scanner sweeping across the center here. Infestors and Zerglings trying to get as much damage as possible. Will they be able to swarm in? Yes, they're going to try to swarm in once more. Zerglings now just surrounding the location here. Infestors cleaning up the rest of the siege tanks, and now those infestors have been sniped down though, so very, very expensive units that did not need to be in that engagement sniped down as siege tanks of Unix now rolling on up into the gold mineral expansion, and it looks like with enough fresh Marines, 1-0, and more Roaches, more siege tanks and medevacs, is going to be very difficult. However, Roaches are now trying to make their way out. Zerglings now swarming in on both sides of the battle. Medevacs trying to come in to reinforce, but still not enough Zerglings and Roaches to finish this off. There are still 3 siege tanks. Any Roach that tries to get within combat range is almost instantly destroyed. But the Broodlings now coming in and joining in on that fight. Drones now making their way over as Nerchio is running low on minerals. Back over here, the Roaches and drones are continuing to battle it out. Marines are falling as the Roaches are getting a lot of damage. The Roaches now 1 or 0-1 upgrades and somehow Nerchio able to still hang on into this game so far. The Metavacs are now retreating into a fresh group of Marines and Marauders, Marines and Siege Tanks, and yeah, that's going to be it. There's the GG by Nerchio. Unix taking this game here on Metalopolis. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between Nerchio and Unix. Stay tuned for Game 2 in this series.